I personally have done all of these various steps. I love doing self-assessment with students. I love exploring career assessments like the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, the Strong Interest Inventory. Love to do some big sky dreaming with my students. We do the tangible, the LinkedIn reviews, the resume reviews. We learn how to craft those documents and transform them for the job or internship or post-grad search for graduate school or professional school programs. One of my favorite areas is to do mock interviews with students. I am actually going to start doing my pre-law mock interviews really soon here. And I do a lot of medical school mock interviews along with industry interviews. We have a lot of different individuals within our office from our advising team who are trained to tackle a lot of different industry interviews. I do a lot of search strategy conversations around this time of year. I've had a lot of conversations about what to do over the summer. So if you have a student who's really thinking about their internship, please have them make an appointment with me. I would love to start talking to them about what that summer experience is going to be like. Or maybe they're graduating, they're a December grad, and they're not sure what their next step is going to be. I do a lot of graduate school prep and coaching around that. I'm actually a pre-law advisor, so I help students understand the pre-law process. We have a lot of other advisors who are trained to help support students in a lot of different areas. And we do this in an individualized one-on-one way. However, that's not the only format because we know that students like to connect in different ways. If we can advance forward, Abby. One of the other ways that we connect is through group advising. And we do this primarily through our career interest groups. They're industry focused, they're filled with faculty, staff, alumni, and employers, and they help really engage with our students and explore career opportunities. And these are some of our career interest groups that we have. And I think that a lot of them have Canvas pages, which is our kind of online course management system filled with information to help students have different ways to engage with their office. Sometimes it's not about just going in and having a one-on-one meeting with an advisor. Sometimes they want to research independently, and we've created a lot of different avenues and pathways so that students feel comfortable to ask any questions and have a variety of resources. So thanks. If we could advance. Here's a little bit of a graph of kind of postgraduate plans. I'm sorry, it got a little jumbled up there, but as you'll see, our students land either with going to grad school, or if they're going on to research or a specialty graduate program, our students land. And I want you to feel comfortable with that. And if they're having struggle with landing or finding what their next step is, our goal is to help them. As a career center, we offer services to alumni. And I think that is something that we're really proud of. We really want to help our students even after they graduate, 5 years down the road, if they want to make a career change. We want to make sure that our office is available and ready for our students. We can move forward. And this is just some examples of our postgraduate landing. So you'll see a variety of different industries represented here, from finance to healthcare to education to the nonprofit sector to our government sector. WashU graduates are hiring from the biggest companies to AmeriCorps, which is a national service corps that I personally was a part of. So we have a lot of great connections with employers. A lot of the times our parents and families are maybe a part of these employers or industry sectors. We also have a great alumni database that helps students connect with other individuals across industries. A lot of our students continue on with their education. Some of them, continue on at WashU, but a lot of them go to top universities all across the nation. And we really love to help our students figure out what their next step is. And for me right now, I'm really in the midst of this for thinking about law school with my students and helping them understand like their law school list and how to prepare and make a kind of robust list. So our students land, and we're just one of the offices that help our students find out their next plan. And move forward. So what can your student do? I think it's never too early to start. If your student's a first-year student and is really wanting to get started on their career development, have them just drop into the Career Center. one of our fabulous career peers can help them get started on their resume, maybe transforming it from a high school level to a college level. If your student's a junior and senior or sophomore even, or even a first-year student and is looking for a summer experience, have them talk to us. We're here to connect. Our advisors are here. Our industry expert consultants are here as well. They are kind of industry focused. A lot of them have full-time jobs in a variety of different industries, and we help our students connect to those individuals so they hear a vast array of experiences. I really highly suggest that students, and a lot of the students do this, they participate in multiple meaningful experiences. So that could be research. We're a top-tier research institution. Helping students really engage in research could help open doors to a new line of thinking, maybe lead to post-grad plans or graduate school plans. Student leadership, there's a lot of great opportunities for students to connect and have professional experiences within their leadership opportunities. The amount of students that I've talked to who are on executive boards in student leadership is astounding. And the work that they do is really practical and really hands-on and helps them in their future career goals. Of course, as a career center, we want them to engage in experiential education, whether that's an internship, a shadowing opportunity, whatever that may be. We would love students to, of course, attend events for internships, for jobs, for exploration. We want our students to feel interested in any events that we're hosting, but also any events that our campus community is hosting. So we have annual programming that happens every single semester. Of course, we want our students to engage in our programming, but also within the campus community, there's a lot of great programming that exists, and just helping our students get involved and finding where they find a sense of belonging is really important for us. And it's a part of that kind of holistic care and advising that we like to provide. Yeah, we'll move on. Rebekah and I just wanted our parents and families to be open to contacting us. So, feel free to reach out. Our email addresses are there. If you want to hear a little bit more about our advising model or approach, or if you want to just forward our email address to your student to reach out to us, that would be great too. Just know that we're here to help support everyone within our campus community. And yeah, I think we're wanted to keep that short and simple and open it up to questions.
Thank you both so much for sharing all of this insightful information. I do have a question that I know many families may be wondering. Do you only offer support for those entering the workforce directly, or do you also help students when they're applying to graduate school or other continuing education like medical school? What might these individualized advising appointments include?
Yeah, Rebekah, I can take that one. I am a pre-law advisor. We have pre-health advisors in our office as well. We offer advice on not just post-grad job, but also for the graduate school search. I'm kind of in the midst of it right now. So I think that involves a lot of different components. So helping students really understand how to apply to school. How do I ask for that letter of rec? I'm really nervous about asking for that letter of rec. How do I even start that conversation? To how do I make a list of schools? Like, what does that even look like? I know I want to be on the East Coast, but I don't know exactly where. To I have an interview for a medical school program. It's my top choice. How do I rock my interview? And everything that can happen in between. It didn't work out this cycle. What do I do now? And we also, of course, help students really reevaluate and rethink if they need to do that. But yeah, it's not just about finding your first job. It could be, how do I find a gap year opportunity? How do I work abroad? And everything that also kind of pops up from those conversations too.
Thank you. We're going to now move on to our question and answer portion of this webinar. As a reminder, families, please submit your questions via the Q&A feature seen at the bottom of the screen. So to get us started, could one of you speak to how many career fairs are offered here at WashU? And how students might be able to either hear about those opportunities or sign up for communications around those opportunities?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. We have one big major all-campus, all-major career fair every semester. So every fall semester and spring semester, We have a very large, very well-attended career fair for all students. And then we also every semester have some kind of more specialty career fairs. I'm super excited. We actually partner with Net Impact, which is a student group on campus, to create a kind of like environment and helping professions nonprofit career fair that's happening in February. That's coming up here soon. We had a law school fair last semester. We have a startup fair this semester. We have a lot of different fairs, but it's not just about the fairs, I think. I think it's also about the information sessions that we have with our employers to help really students understand what's the day in the life of working at this big consulting firm. What's the day in the life of being an AmeriCorps member? And students have access to all of our career events, every single one, through Handshake, which is our career management platform.
Families, I know that we are receiving a number of questions in regards to pre-health. We also want to make a note that we will be hosting a pre-health webinar in the spring for some more pre-health specific questions. Shifting gears a little bit, can you speak or share more about the on-campus recruiting opportunities specifically for graduating seniors and what that has looked like on campus in the past?
Yeah, I think that being a graduating senior can be quite stressful, and it's really important to really think about all of the different recruiting opportunities that happen throughout the fall and spring semester, but not also over the summers too. So I think if I had a graduating senior right now, I would highly encourage that individual to consider attending our next full on-campus large-scale career fair happening at the end of January. I think that's a really good idea for our graduating seniors to at least start there. We have a lot of prep sessions to help our students get really ready for that. And any of the career fairs that the students are interested in. And as we said before, there's a lot of information sessions that are happening within the semester right now. A lot of our seniors may not know exactly what industry they want to go into, or they may be just wanting to do a little bit of that assessment exploration phase right now before they kind of launch. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to attend any of the various information sessions that are going to be hosted now to the start of the new year. And I think that what's really important here is to just talk to one of the advisors one-on-one too, because each of us can help that student come up with a search strategy. So I'm a huge strategy person. I really like to do that. And I think that a lot of what I do in appointments is really help lay out what's going on with the recruitment calendar for now. You know, what's typical for this within a variety of industries. How can we come up with a game plan? How can we build targets? How can we network within those targets and then apply? It's just one approach that we can help tackle. How do we set intentional SMART goals throughout that process too? Because it's very overwhelming to just think about, I need to get a job. So how can we break it down to tangible steps so our students feel empowered in making each of those steps become a reality?
If I could jump in real quick here, one of the nice things that we do offer, and now that we're post-COVID, theoretically post-COVID, we are now kind of relaunching these programs, but there's something called road shows, and our partners at the Weston Career Center also call them treks, but we do take students to visit companies at a variety of cities. And we tend to do this during the winter and spring breaks. And we take a variety of different cohorts of students to specific parts of the country to meet with representatives, often WashU alumni, at different companies. And that's a really wonderful way to explore options. It's a great way for students to kind of get the sense of an organization. We recommend students, who are even in their first, second year, to go ahead and start doing this because, I think you'll giggle. My daughter is on the college search process, and you know how important it is to have gone to some of those schools to check them out. Well, it's not that uncommon, right? If you want to go to an organization and kind of get a sense for what it feels like and looks like and meet the people that work there at their place of business, that can be a really exciting also opportunity to help students with that career exploration process.
Is the Career Center open during any portion of winter break in order to assist students who might be looking for internships or opportunities?
Yeah, we're open for business. There are some university holidays, so those dates are kind of closed. But besides that, we're open during the summers too, winter break.
And then as a follow-up, can a student do a walk-in or should they make an appointment? How does that typically happen for students to be able to connect?
So just to add on to what Ahmar was saying with regard to the breaks, sometimes students don't, I mean, first of all, don't realize that we're open during those breaks, but that often tends to be a really great time to work with our advisors because they are not so slammed. So once the semester begins, we are going to be in full career preparation mode, career fair preparation mode, and so we'll have and recruiting mode. So lots and lots of seniors are going to be coming in and getting ready for the fair and getting ready for interviews. And so our schedules can really book up. But during the winter break, it's remarkably quiet. And so if your student's kind of, thinking about trying to come in for an appointment, we can do that over Zoom as well as in person. And those opportunities are always available. In terms of whether students can just walk right in or schedule an appointment, students are always welcome here. And if you happen to ever be in the Danforth University Center and are walking by the Career Center, you'll often see students hanging around in the Career Center, studying, talking to our wonderful peer advisors who are super friendly and are really engaged with our students. And so students can come right in and talk to one of our career peer advisors about just to get started, right? What do I start with first? Who is the best person for me even to see? And then we also online have appointment scheduling. And so our peers can get students connected to that. And then students certainly can just go ahead and schedule an appointment to get started with a career advisor. And the appointment system we have is really nice. So if you know really kind of what you're interested in and what you're trying to hope for, Ahmar was talking about working with our pre-law students, for example, you can find that information so you know who exactly to meet with.
So we have some folks who are asking about Handshake. Can you talk more about what that platform is, how a family member may want to speak to their student about that platform? And is it something that first-year students should be using, or is this something that they should be doing later on in their collegiate career?
Yes, I think everyone should use it whenever they feel ready and comfortable to use it. So a Handshake is our career management platform. It just recently has been launched, and it's a great opportunity for students to do a lot of different work on. So I'll just kind of think about it in 3 buckets for now. So the first bucket I would say is the events. I talked a little bit about it before, but all of our career-related events are listed in Handshake. So students have a one-stop shop to sign up for events, put it on their calendar, kind of preview all the different types of events that they want to attend. So they have an organizational system. There's also, of course, a kind of board on there, a job and internship, research position on-campus job board. It has a lot of different opportunities for students to engage. They can actually apply via Handshake. Or on-campus, if they're looking for an on-campus job, that's where they're going to go. If they're looking for an internship, that's one of the places where they can apply. And then finally, I really love I think one of the more underutilized areas is for students to have access to an employer directory via Handshake. So they can actually look up employers in various industries. They can sort by industry, by keyword. They can also sort by the company size. And then when they're actually using their smart filters, and you can actually search by city if they have a target city. You can read more about that company and possibly see students who have done internships at that company to maybe send them a message, because you can message individuals on there. And then on top of that, you can also message recruiters on there if they are listed in their Handshake profile. And it's really easy to set up. The more it knows you, the more it's going to send you recommended and curated information. And it's really easy to create. I just like to think of it as like a LinkedIn for students.
So the two of you talked a little bit about things that are maybe more specific to first years versus seniors. Does the Career Center have specialized resources and programs based on what year the student is in, whether they're a sophomore or a junior or whatnot? And what does that look like?
Yeah, so we actually are about to launch Junior Jumpstart, which is for our junior students. They're going to be entering their junior year, and it helps them kind of like, it's a summer conference that really helps kickstart them into thinking about what their next step's going to be. So like that's an example of like a school specific program, and class level specific program that has a lot of different kind of conference topic areas. So for example, I present in the pre-law track. We also present in other tracks, like I did a gap year discussion as well. So we have that. I've done other programs for specific student bodies too, like the Sophomore Strengths Academy. And then we also, of course, have programming for specific class levels, like, you know, designing your first year, what that looks like as well.
I think,
Sorry.
sorry, Ronaldo. I was thinking one of the things that I think might be helpful too when we think about students, when we talk a lot about academics, we talk about, you know, a lot of requirements year by year. And the career development is a little bit different. So as students are, you know, exploring and assessing, you know, who they are and trying to decide where do I want to go and how do I want to get there. It's a very iterative process for students. So it's, you know, it's not necessarily that in the first year you should do this, and the second year you do this next piece, and the third year you do this. Some of that has a lot to do with where the student is at in that career development process. And the more experience and things that they try out and try on, the more they're going to learn about themselves. And so that might take them back a couple of steps, but then they're going to shoot forward again in another area, and they're going to learn more about themselves and the types of things that they like and don't like, and then they're going to shoot forward again. And as you think about your own careers, you probably kind of recognize that in yourselves. And so that's something that we might not have many programs focused on the year itself, and that's precisely why. Because we really do work with students where they're at, based on the type of experiences and skills they've developed to help them advance from where they are at that moment.
So I know that you just said that it's really important to think about where your students are at. And we have a number of family members who are asking some questions, nervous about, or their students are nervous about where they may be at as a first-year student going into that first summer. So are students expected to do an internship after their first year? Does it matter what they're studying? So is your answer different if they're in arts and sciences versus business versus engineering versus art and architecture? Yeah, can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I know that question can, you know, cause a little bit of, you know, anxiousness. And I want to acknowledge that after your first year of college, there's a number of things that you can do. There are some, you could possibly engage in an internship program. You could shadow a little bit. You could get just a regular job. I think that, you know, working at a coffee shop or getting some of those kind of great skills of learning how to work on a team. You really get that in working in any kind of like coffee shop, restaurant industry job, solving problems. Those are all really good transferable skills, and it's a good way to spend your summer. It could be a summer camp. It could be volunteering. It could be starting a research journey. So I think just doing something that's meaningful to that student, knowing that they have several other summers, but if they really want to land a certain internship in a certain area, students do that, and we're happy to kind of talk to them and kind of think things through about, like, you know, what does that look like? Oh, this might not be there. Maybe this internship program is not open for rising sophomore students, but what are some other things that we could do? Maybe working at a nonprofit, doing some volunteer work, or kind of create your own internship type of adventure. How can we do that instead?
Can you speak to how Career Center advisors may partner with academic advisors? So for students who might be trying to determine if they can study abroad, and if or how that might impact their, say, internship process or academic progress towards a degree.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. A lot of career center advisors are actually academic advisors too. They do that a little bit kind of with a small group of students because their main role is to do career advising. So a lot of my colleagues actually do a little bit of academic advising as well. I talk to students all the time about kind of like great courses to take if they want to go on to law school. I talk to, because I hear from faculty about, you know, what these courses are and why they would be really beneficial for a certain program. I would also talk to students about kind of their study abroad decision and how that relates to what their next steps are going to be. We actually do a program with study abroad to help kind of talk about how to put your study abroad experience on your resume, or how to talk a little bit about like, what did you do over your study abroad? And, you know, what are some of those kind of transferable skills to what your next career step will be?
Ahmar, earlier you mentioned about a gap year. Can you share more about reasons that students may choose to take a gap year between their undergraduate experience and moving on to say things like medical school or law school or other forms of graduate school? So what might a student choose to do during that time, or what have you seen students choose to do during that time?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I've seen a lot of students consider a gap year for a variety of reasons. I think it only strengthens your application for a graduate school program. I think it really helps you just have some space away from academia, maybe do a little bit of growing and soul searching. I actually did 2 years of gap time before I did my graduate program, and it was one of the most beneficial experiences that I've had in my career so far. And some examples of what students do. Let's take maybe some of my students that I know who are going to law school next year. One of them is in doing City Year, which is an AmeriCorps program where they are working within a school district in a city, helping students get on reading level or helping with their math skills. I actually did something similar back in my hometown. Other students do, you know, let's take some pre-med students, because I know that's a big question. They do working scribing at an urgent care or a hospital, just getting some of those kind of tangible hands-on experience. A lot of our students end up researching with WashU Med, for especially our medical students, doing some kind of cutting edge research with a WashU Med in a variety of different departments. So it's really about kind of create your adventure here, which I think is really fun. And I think grad schools really like to see students do a lot of interesting different things, whatever they're passionate about. I've had some students do some woofing, which is you know, worldwide opportunities in organic farming, and they ended up going to grad school for environmental science. The list is kind of endless.
Can you speak a little bit more about what the typical meeting with a career advisor might look like? So how is it structured? How long are those meetings? What can a student expect when meeting with a career advisor?
Yeah, so our meetings are 50 minutes. Sometimes they take 50 minutes and sometimes they take an hour. Usually we block the whole hour. And what that really looks like is first getting to know the student. I think it's really important to just acknowledge that, you know, we're human and we're coming from maybe a class that was really stressful, or it's 9 a.m. and we just woke up, so we're still kind of waking up a little bit. And we do some just rapport building. I think that's actually really important to do as we meet with our students. We introduce ourselves, a little bit about our background. We have our students introduce ourselves. We talk about how it's going with the semester. And then I really like to have kind of just some goals, like, you know, what would you like to accomplish with today's meeting? It could be a mock interview, and that's what they scheduled for. So that's pretty self-explanatory. And then we run into our mock interview questions and we review our responses. But sometimes we have appointments that are just a little bit more not structured. We're like, well, I'm just thinking about career exploration. So we talk about like the resources that the students have access to for career exploration. We talk a little bit about how to conduct informational interviews with alums who are in industries that they're interested in. And then we come up with game plans that are really concrete and really tangible, so they have clear next steps. And then we sometimes assign some light homework, for lack of better words, and we just kind of make that as an intentional check-in. And sometimes we schedule another appointment for the future, or sometimes we let our student kind of decide when the next step will be.
Does the Career Center primarily support graduating seniors who are only applying for full-time employment or continuing education? Or do you see a lot of students who might be graduating seniors applying for internships and research opportunities? And what does that look like?
Yeah, we support all students that are interested in all different facets of their journey. And I think for research, that's pretty common. Our students get really interested in the research they do during their undergraduate experience, and they want to become a research technician or a research coordinator, or they want to maybe apply for a long-term internship program, or they might want to consider going into a rotational program because they're not really sure what they want to do yet. So they want to consider possibly looking into a program that lets them try out different facets of industry, whether that's HR and accounting or whatever that may be. So we meet the student where they're at. Whatever they're interested in, we're happy to talk about. And if I'm not the right person to talk to about it, I'm going to connect them. I like to think of myself as a connector, oh, you're interested in this industry. I think here's some introductory information on it, how you can read. And I also suggest meeting with my colleague who has some really strong experience within that industry.
Can you share more about what the mock interviews that you all do for students, what that all entails? Some specific questions include, like, is this something done in person, or is it virtual modality? Is it something that students are encouraged to dress professionally for? And then how they receive feedback post mock interview.
I love mock interviews, and I'm happy to talk about all of the mock interview aspects of my job. So I do a lot of mock interviews, and what that kind of typically looks like is, first, students have an option to meet with us either virtually, in person, or over the phone, whichever. I recommend that they meet with us in the modality of what their interview is going to be like, because I think that helps them prepare most efficiently. So a lot of our, for example, medical school interviews are still virtual. So it's probably wise to do at least one mock interview virtually, because that's going to help them get into that space that they need to be in when they go to their mock interview. We actually have a really strong tool called Big Interview, which is a mock interview resource for our students. And that's just another way that they can prepare. It has over like 150, maybe even 170 interview playbooks that students can watch to reinforce their sessions. We also have just general interview prep sessions throughout the calendar year. So that's if they like the group approach, they don't want to do the individualized approach. That's one way. If they want to do it independently, they can hop into Big Interview. And then they can also consider within the appointment, what I usually do is I run through questions with the student, and then we may workshop a little bit beforehand, especially if it's their first interview, like, how do you prepare stories? What are some common questions? How do we workshop? And then afterwards, we give kind of feedback on every question that they've answered and kind of think about major themes, how to market ourselves.
Is there a list of the confirmed employers who will be at the upcoming career fair, or how can students get access to knowing who's going to be present?
Yes, so at the next upcoming career fair, employers are signing up now. They're still continuing to sign up, and they will be continuing to sign up. And all that information can be found on Handshake. And they can preview their employers that they're interested in.
So we have a family member who shared that their student has been encouraged to reach out to alumni in their field of interest. However, there are some new majors at WashU, and we also know that jobs are evolving and careers that didn't exist 10 years ago are now available or are now growing fields. What advice do you have for students that might be in this situation for finding connections?
I think our alumni are just a wonderful resource. They really love to help and support our students. And with changing industries, our alumni are actually kind of in the midst of that themselves, because they're in the industry right now, in the field. So they're pretty much experts on what's going on in a variety of industries. We actually have a really amazing app called WashU Connects, CNX. And WashU Connects really helps our students dive into the world of mentorship within the WashU community. So what I like to think of it is, it's kind of like LinkedIn just for WashU. It's filled with WashU faculty, staff, and alumni and students. And what students can do within WashU Connects is have career conversations with these individuals. And we're not just kind of leaving them with no guidance here, like go talk to an alum. Well, we want to make sure they understand how to have those conversations. So how do you send out that first initial message? How do I even search for someone who has a similar interest to me? Well, WashU Connects actually has a matching quiz, which I think is just fun to take to match you with certain alums that have interest. You can also like use our smart filters to find alumni who have similar interests to you. And then we have kind of templates to help students reach out to individuals. Of course, we want them to personalize those templates as they research those alumni that they're interested in. And then they might set up a time for a coffee chat. And we have some questions to help get them started. But then a lot of students actually come back, they're like, oh, Ahmar, the questions you gave me were great. I actually just ended up asking questions in the spur of the moment because I was like inspired by that conversation. And I think that is also like one of my favorite things to do. And a lot of the students that I've talked to who've used WashU Connects have really enjoyed it and been really successful with reaching out to alums there.
And if I may add, if any of you are WashU alumni and haven't had a chance to sign up for CNX, we welcome you to go ahead and do that. This is a relatively new service, and so we're continuing now to get more and more student engagement and certainly more alumni engagement. So if you're interested in connecting with students who are interested in your industry and your occupation, please feel free to join. We're always looking for more people to participate in that. And yeah, it's a great experience. If you find that your students are really dragging their feet around doing that, I think it can be very daunting for students to talk to, we have very accomplished students and they go on to often very accomplished careers. And that can be a little intimidating and nerve-wracking. And we're happy to walk them through that and sit and do it with them. We can really, and Ahmar was referencing some of this, we can sit and help write that first email, right? Or what do you say in that first interaction? Sometimes it just takes that first getting over that hump, and students don't have to do that, or really any part of that career decision-making and job searching. They don't have to do any of that alone. We're there to support them throughout all steps.
During your presentation, you mentioned some assessments or inventories that students can take. Do students complete those prior to scheduling their first meeting, or do they do that afterwards?
Yes. I believe the assessments that we're referring to are the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator and the Strong Interest Inventory, which are great career assessment tools. And students actually receive information to take those assessment tools before their meeting. And then it takes about an hour. They go ahead and take that assessment tool and they take it online, and I automatically get the results. And then I download those results and preview the results, and we go over it in a meeting. And then they have the physical or electronic copy, which has hyperlinks within it, and they get to keep that. It's about 50 pages of information. It's very dense. So we never get to go through all of it, but we get to go through a lot of it. And I really invite students to kind of like highlight things and come back to them and we come up with game plans. It's really fun.
What advice do you have for a student who feels that they may be behind in their post-graduation planning process? Is it ever too late to engage with the Career Center services? And what happens if a student, say, graduates and then decides to have, or decides that they may need some support in their career trajectory or searches?
I don't think it's ever too late to really think about your growth as a human, as as a professional. And I think what I like to do with our students, with our community, is just be an open door. We have services forever. So if you're 5 years down the road, I'm actually meeting with several alums. This is kind of a time where alums kind of reach out about a career trajectory change. It happens. I like to think sometimes we live in an episodic career world. Maybe this one episode of your life is within a certain career isn't as relevant to you anymore. So what's that career change like? How do I discuss transferable skills? So I don't think it's ever too late. And we're always here to help our alums as they travel and navigate the career world.
For students who might be looking for jobs outside of Missouri, what kind of support is available, especially when it comes to, say, like looking at industries that might have jobs not necessarily here, or they may be looking in a location-bound area outside of Missouri. We have a family member who shared that their engineering student is looking for advice, as many companies that the student has encountered on campus are primarily located in this region.
I think it's very easy for companies that are local to come to campus. And so students are going to get exposed to those organizations probably a little bit more frequently than others. But, in Handshake, you'll notice that the companies that are recruiting our students, and so the employers that are appearing in Handshake are selecting WashU students to advertise their opportunities to. And they're coming to campus to the career fairs. And those companies are national and global sometimes. And so it's not uncommon for students to leave the state of Missouri to find job opportunities. Many students choose to go back home to their home state or their home city to find employment opportunities. And we absolutely help them do that. And one of the things our employer relations team does is they also survey students on a regular basis to find out where are they looking for job opportunities. And, as an example, we found out we had a good cohort of students who are looking for opportunities in Nashville. And we were scratching our head. Nashville, hadn't really anticipated that Nashville was going to be one of the top cities that students were looking for employment. And so what did the employer team do? Well, they laser focused then on Nashville to drum up some more relationships and create opportunities for students. And so, we're always really trying to have our eye on the game, on the ball, where our students are finding interest, what are they looking for, and really trying to make sure that those opportunities are available to students. If students are not finding the opportunities they're looking for in Handshake, they should still come in and talk with us, because we have oodles of relationships. Our career advisors are really well connected and really helpful. And one of the things we didn't talk about too much is that we actually have a whole slate of consulting staff who are part-time staff who have taken as the second or third job in their career to sit and work with students about their professions. And so they have worked in industry for many years, have incredible experience, and are now working directly to transmit that experience directly to students on our campus. And that's just a real privilege to have these really wonderful staff, wonderful resources for our students. And they have oodles of connections in their network too. So students should absolutely come in. We can really help them make those connections and identify those opportunities.
We're going to ask one last question for the evening. Rebekah, Ahmar, thank you both so much for the information that you've shared tonight. Our last question, how can families get involved with either the Career Center or career development?
So that's a really wonderful question. And I am so grateful that that question was asked. So there's a few ways I think that families can get involved. First, again, if you're an alum, please don't hesitate to sign up for CNX, because that's a really nice way to get into the alumni mentorship circles to support students. Another thing is we also shared the Handshake link there in the chat. And if you have opportunities at your company, we would love it if you advocated for Washington University students with your HR teams to post opportunities and ensure that those are appearing for our Washington University students. So that's one thing that is something that's very important. In the future, so we are in the process of doing some Career Services a transformation effort. And as part of that, we're going to really be expanding the alumni networking, parent and volunteer, so parent and friend engagement opportunities to work with our students in mentorship capacities. And so not yet this year, but in the future years, we're going to have more opportunities for you to be involved directly in supporting students. But in the meanwhile, yeah, we thank you so much for all that you're doing and the support that you give students. And if I could say one thing, one of the most important things that you can do to help your student is help lower the pressure on careers. Careers create a lot of anxiety for students. Mental health and anxiety is very high for college students just generally. And career can like, bring that up a notch. So we want to kind of work on bringing that down, help students reflect on who they are, what their strengths are, help them see those experiences, be a helpful coach and continue to support them on their journey. But pressuring around internships and the sense of timelines and being late can be really, really overwhelming for students and sometimes have the opposite effect, which is pushing students away from participating in career services as opposed to coming in and getting that support. So whatever you can do to cheer your students on for every step that they take will go real long way. So thank you so much for being great partners in that work.
Rebekah and Ahmar, thank you both so much again. Families, we hope that you were able to learn some valuable information this evening. As a reminder, this webinar recording will be shared at families.wustl.edu next week. We ask that you stay tuned for our next webinar, a conversation about housing selection, which will occur next Wednesday, December 14th at 5:30 p.m. You will be able to register for this webinar at families.wustl.edu. We will see you then.